Früher haben wir viele Mails von Leuten bekommen, vor allem von Frauen, in denen stand: Warum bringt ihr Matt und Kitty nicht öfter zusammen?
James Arness, the towering star of Gunsmoke, commanded the silver screen with a presence that could silence a room. For decades, he was the epitome of Western grit and honor, embodying the stoic marshal everyone admired. But behind the camera, the world of Hollywood wasn't always as straightforward as it seemed. In a surprising revelation, Arness, known for his professionalism and calm demeanor, confessed that there was one person he truly hated more than anyone. Fans who've admired his career for years might find it hard to believe. The man who played Matt Dillon, a symbol of justice and steadiness, carried a private resentment that few knew about. This wasn't a fleeting irritation or a professional rivalry. Arness's disdain ran deep, shaped by personal clashes, creative disagreements, and years of tension that festered behind closed doors. The story reveals a side of Hollywood rarely seen, the complex, human side of legends who endured the pressures, politics and egos of a demanding industry. For decades, Arness maintained his composure publicly, never allowing his feelings to taint the shows, interviews, or appearances. But now, in a candid reflection near the end of his life, he finally revealed the truth, the person who had pushed every button, tested every limit, and sparked an anger that few witnessed firsthand. What follows is a rare look at the hidden tensions behind one of television's most beloved figures. The story uncovers the feud, the reasons behind it, and how even a man as calm and principled as James Arness could harbor such profound dislike, proving that even legends have their breaking points. James Arness was the embodiment of calm, stoic authority on television. For over 20 years, he played Marshal Matt Dillon on Gunsmoke, bringing the Old West to life with a combination of strength, fairness, and quiet dignity. Fans adored him for his unwavering sense of justice, his imposing height, and the integrity he brought to every role. Behind the scenes, however, Arness was far from immune to the strains of Hollywood. Early in his career, Arness had learned that fame wasn't always synonymous with respect. He had risen to stardom in the 1950s, a time when television was still finding its footing, and actors navigated a complex web of egos, producers, and studio politics. Despite his commanding screen presence, Arness preferred a life away from the limelight, humble, private, and disciplined. Yet even he could not avoid conflicts, particularly with one individual who tested his patience more than anyone else. According to accounts from colleagues, this person was a fellow actor with whom Arness shared scenes and projects. On camera, the actor could be charming and charismatic, the kind of performer who drew attention effortlessly. But off camera, he was notorious for arrogance, unpredictability, and a tendency to undermine others to make himself look superior. For Arness, who valued professionalism and mutual respect, these behaviors were intolerable. During filming, Arness maintained his trademark composure, never letting personal feelings interfere with the craft. Yet behind closed doors, his irritation simmered. Crew members and co-stars noticed his subtle glances, terse responses, and occasional cold silences, all signs of a man pushed to the edge. One longtime director recalled, James could handle anything on set, but there was one guy he just couldn't abide. You could see it in the way he walked into a room. The tension escalated over time. Creative disagreements turned into personal clashes, and small slights accumulated into a quiet but intense dislike. Arness, who had served in World War II and had faced real danger, was not one to be rattled easily. Yet the constant provocations wore on him. The actor in question often disregarded schedules, ignored cues, and flouted rules, creating a work environment that clashed directly with Arness's disciplined nature. Even so, Arness did not lash out publicly. He had learned early on that maintaining professionalism was essential, both for his career and for the show's success. Fans never saw the private frustration, the moments when he clenched his jaw or withdrew from a conversation to avoid confrontation. It was a testament to his self-control and a glimpse into the personal battles that went unnoticed behind the camera. Arness's colleagues described the situation as a slow-burning feud. It was never about hatred in the dramatic, cinematic sense. It was about fundamental incompatibility. The clash of values, work ethic, and personal temperament created a rift, that would remain for years. While Arness treated everyone with courtesy, the one actor who consistently pushed his limits was an exception, someone whose presence he dreaded, despite the show's success and critical acclaim. As the seasons of Gunsmoke continued, Arness perfected the art of coexistence. He never allowed the feud to derail his performance, but he never hid his feelings either. In private interviews late in life, he finally acknowledged what those around him had long suspected. There was one person in Hollywood who had tested him like no other, someone who had earned his deep, lasting dislike. By the mid-1960s, Gunsmoke had firmly established James Arness as a television icon. Millions tuned in each week to see Marshal Matt Dillon maintain law and order in Dodge City, and Arness's commanding presence became the standard against which other Western heroes were measured. But behind the cameras, one co-star tested every ounce of his patience, a man whose behavior clashed with Arness's sense of discipline and professionalism. Colleagues described this actor as magnetic and charismatic, capable of captivating audiences with minimal effort. On set, he could charm directors, fans, and even other actors. But Arness saw a different side: arrogance, ego, and a lack of respect for those around him. Simple things, arriving late, ignoring cues, dismissing crew instructions, became recurring frustrations. Over time, small slights accumulated into deep resentment. One incident that stayed with Arness involved a scene requiring precise timing between him and this co-star. The actor, reportedly impatient and dismissive, deliberately altered his timing, forcing multiple retakes. The crew struggled to keep the set on schedule, and Arness's quiet frustration was visible. Though he never lost his composure publicly, insiders recall a terse exchange in which Arness quietly admonished him, reminding him of the professionalism the production demanded. The actor's smirk, however, only deepened Arness's irritation. Arness was known for his patience, earned through years of military service and a disciplined approach to acting. Yet he was not someone to tolerate repeated disrespect. To him, every person on set, actors, crew, or assistants, deserved professionalism. When someone repeatedly flouted these standards, it became impossible to ignore. Colleagues noted that Arness's private comments, while measured, were laced with genuine disdain. He didn't talk trash publicly, a fellow cast member explained, but behind the scenes you could feel the tension. He made no effort to hide it from the right people. Despite their animosity, Arness and this co-star maintained a professional facade during filming. Arness understood the stakes. Gunsmoke was a cultural phenomenon, and a public feud could harm the show. He compartmentalized his feelings, channeling frustration into his craft. Viewers would never know the degree to which he endured personal irritation to keep the production running smoothly. Off-camera, the feud had subtle consequences. Crew members recall Arness quietly avoiding scenes with the actor whenever possible, choosing to focus on other aspects of production rather than indulge in conflict. He relied on humor, diplomacy, and careful timing to navigate the tension, but the undercurrent of dislike was ever present. Friends who visited the set noted Arness's patience, but also his barely concealed exasperation with the one co-star who consistently tested his limits. What made this situation particularly noteworthy was the contrast between Arness's calm, measured personality and the other actor's unpredictable temperament. Where Arness sought consistency, respect, and discipline, the co-star thrived on attention, unpredictability, and subtle manipulation. The clash was almost inevitable. Two strong personalities with fundamentally different values working side by side on a high-pressure, highly visible project. In interviews late in life, Arness spoke candidly about the experience, acknowledging the frustration without bitterness. "There are people you work with who push every button," he said. "Some of them you can handle, some of them you just don't like. That's life." Though they coexisted professionally, the feud left a lasting mark on Arness's memory of Hollywood. A reminder that even the most disciplined, stoic actors encounter personalities they simply cannot respect or tolerate. It was a quiet, simmering conflict, but one that defined a significant part of his experience on the legendary show. By the time Gunsmoke had reached its peak, James Arness had settled into a rhythm that made him both respected and admired by cast and crew. His towering presence and calm demeanor made him the anchor of the show, but behind the cameras, one co-star continued to challenge his patience at every turn. This actor's charm was undeniable, both on and off screen. Audiences loved him. Directors appreciated his improvisational flair. But Arness knew the reality behind the charisma, a man whose ego often dictated the terms on set. For Arness, a disciplined, respectful professional, this behavior was not just irritating, it was intolerable. One particularly memorable incident occurred during a tense sequence in which timing and precision were crucial. The co-star, perhaps seeking to assert dominance or simply indifferent to the collaborative process, deliberately altered his cues. Scenes had to be shot multiple times, delaying production and frustrating crew members. Arness, who valued efficiency and professionalism, responded not with anger, but with quiet firmness. He corrected the issue calmly, ensuring the scene was completed without letting the tension spill into public view. Arness's approach was classic. He refused to escalate conflicts unnecessarily. He was never one to make a scene, a longtime crew member explained. But you knew he was annoyed. You could see it in his eyes, his tone, the way he carried himself. That one actor pushed him in ways no one else could. Despite the professional facade, the feud had ripple effects across the set. Arness often chose to avoid unnecessary interactions with the co-star, focusing instead on his own performance and maintaining a stable environment for the crew. Other actors respected Arness's ability to compartmentalize his dislike. He never let it affect his work. But his private disdain was unmistakable. Colleagues also noted that Arness's military background played a role in how he handled the situation. Having served in World War II, he was disciplined, patient, and strategic. He viewed the co-star's provocations not as personal attacks, but as obstacles to overcome. Yet, unlike many, he didn't pretend to like someone he genuinely didn't. There was a quiet honesty in his dislike, a recognition that some personalities simply clash, and that tolerance has its limits. In personal reflections years later, Arness admitted that the feud had taught him valuable lessons. "You meet all kinds of people in this business," he said. "Some you admire, some you tolerate, and some you just don't like. You learn to work around them, because your focus has to be on the work, not the drama." His words revealed a man who, despite deep resentment, had mastered the art of navigating Hollywood's complex social landscape. Interestingly, the feud also highlighted Arness's integrity. While others might have resorted to gossip or public outbursts, he maintained his dignity. The co-star's antics could have derailed a lesser professional, but Arness treated every scene as sacred, proof that true dedication to craft often outweighs personal grievances. Ultimately, the story of James Arness and the one co-star he truly hated is more than just Hollywood gossip. It's a testament to the challenges even the most iconic actors face behind the camera, the clash of egos, the subtle manipulations, and the quiet endurance required to maintain professionalism in the face of adversity. Though the feud simmered quietly for years, it remained a defining aspect of Arness's experience on Gunsmoke, illustrating that even legends have their breaking points, and that even the calmest, most stoic figures have someone who can truly test them. In the later years of his life, James Arness reflected candidly on the experiences that shaped his career. Among the countless moments of triumph and joy, he never shied away from acknowledging the people who had tested him most, including the one co-star he openly admitted to truly hating. It wasn't bitterness that drove his reflection, but clarity, perspective, and the hard-earned wisdom of decades in Hollywood. Arness often described the feud as a collision of values. On one side was him, disciplined, patient, and committed to professionalism. On the other was a personality fueled by ego, unpredictability, and the constant need for attention. The clash was inevitable, but Arness's response was measured. He refused to engage in petty conflicts or public quarrels, understanding that the ultimate responsibility was to the show, the crew, and the fans who admired his work. Yet the personal toll was real. Colleagues recall that on days when the co-star's antics peaked, Arness would retreat briefly, taking moments to compose himself before stepping back onto set. He didn't let it show, a crew member noted. but you could feel the tension. It wasn't just dislike, it was a deep frustration that built over time. Despite this, Arness never allowed the feud to compromise his performance, demonstrating a rare blend of patience, self-control, and professionalism that earned him lasting respect. In interviews, Arness reflected on the lessons learned from the rivalry. He explained that Hollywood is filled with personalities that clash, but survival requires restraint, understanding, and focus. You meet people you like, people you don't, and people you can't stand, he said. It's part of the business. The key is knowing when to engage and when to rise above it. For him, rising above didn't mean ignoring the truth of his feelings. It meant channeling frustration into work, never letting personal grievances overshadow his craft. The feud also underscored Arness's integrity. He never spoke ill of the co-star publicly during the height of their careers. The world knew James Arness as the calm, commanding Matt Dillon, unwavering, principled, and honorable. Few realized that behind the scenes, he managed one of the most challenging personal conflicts of his career with subtlety and poise. This restraint became part of his legacy, a man who could hate without losing his dignity, who could face conflict without compromising character. Even decades later, Arness could recall specific moments with a wry sense of realism rather than anger. He admitted that there were days when the co-star's behavior tested him like nothing else. Yet those experiences also taught him patience, diplomacy, and the limits of tolerance. In a sense, the rivalry became an unspoken teacher, shaping Arness into the professional icon admired by millions. By the time Gunsmoke ended, Arness had not only survived Hollywood's relentless pressures, but had mastered them. The co-star who had once vexed him remained part of his story, a reminder that even legends encounter personalities that challenge them. Yet Arness's response, measured, patient, and steadfast, reflected a deeper truth. True strength isn't shown in avoidance or confrontation alone. It's shown in maintaining integrity, focus, and humanity, even when provoked. Ultimately, James Arness's revelation about the one person he truly hated offers more than gossip. It provides insight into the human side of Hollywood. Beneath the fame, accolades, and larger-than-life persona lies a man who navigated complex relationships with wisdom and grace, proving that even icons have their limits, and that even in dislike, there can be dignity. Arness's story reminds us that behind every legendary career are private battles, unseen frustrations, and quiet moments of endurance. And for James Arness, those moments only strengthened the legend of Matt Dillon, a hero on screen and a master of composure off screen, who never allowed personal hatred to tarnish his life's work.